Have you ever felt like your prayers are just disappearing? Not rejected, not answered, just gone. Like your words rise up and then vanish into silence. You sit there in the quiet. Maybe it's early morning before the world fully wakes up, or maybe it's late at night when everything finally slows down and there's nothing left to distract you. You close your eyes. You take a breath. You try to focus, and you begin. God, thank you. God, thank you. God, please help me. God, I trust you. The words come out. They sound right. They sound like what prayer is supposed to sound like. But something doesn't feel right, because underneath the words, there's a quiet tension, a subtle discomfort you can't fully explain, like you're speaking, but no one is really there, so you keep going. You try not to overthink it. Maybe you pray a little longer this time. Maybe you slow your voice down, hoping it will feel more sincere. Maybe you try to focus harder, push distractions away, force your mind to stay present. You tell yourself, just concentrate, just believe, but something strange happens. The more you try, the more effort it takes just to stay in the moment. And instead of feeling closer, you start to feel more aware of the silence. Not peaceful silence. Not comforting silence, but empty silence. And when it's over, nothing has changed. The same thoughts are still there, the same worries come back, the same weight is still sitting on your chest, and the same questions are still unanswered. So you tell yourself, maybe I just need more faith. That must be it. So the next time, you try harder. You focus more. You choose better words. You try to feel more belief, more sincerity, more emotion. But instead of feeling stronger, you feel more exhausted. Because now prayer doesn't just feel empty, it feels like pressure. And here's the part no one really talks about. The harder you try, the more distant it feels. And that's confusing, because it doesn't make sense. Shouldn't trying harder make you feel closer? Shouldn't more effort create more connection? But somehow, the opposite happens. And slowly, quietly, something begins to shift inside you. Not all at once, not in a dramatic way. Just over time. A thought begins to form. You don't say it out loud. You don't even fully admit it to yourself. But it's there. What if God just isn't listening to me? Not in anger, not in rebellion, not in doubt that screams, but in doubt that whispers, soft, subtle, persistent. Because you've seen other people talk about prayer like it's powerful, like it changes things, like it brings peace, like it creates real connection. They talk about feeling God, hearing God, experiencing something real. But that's not what you're experiencing. For you, it feels like effort, like reaching, like trying to cross a distance that never seems to close. And the worst part is, you don't know why. So naturally, you start looking inward. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I don't understand prayer. Maybe my faith isn't strong enough. Maybe I'm just not spiritual enough. And once that thought takes root, everything starts to change. Because now, every prayer becomes a test, a performance, something you have to get right. You start monitoring yourself while you pray, watching your words, judging your focus, evaluating your sincerity. Was that good enough? Did I mean that enough? Was I focused enough? And instead of being present, you're observing yourself, trying to fix yourself, trying to improve something you can't quite define. And that creates tension, constant tension, because you're never fully relaxed, you're never fully at peace, you're always slightly on, trying, adjusting, fixing. And that tension creates distance, not because God is far away, but because you're stuck in effort mode. And the more time passes, the more that distance starts to affect how you see God, not consciously, not intentionally, but subtly. Instead of feeling close, he starts to feel far. Instead of feeling present, he feels silent. Instead of feeling like someone you can rest with, he starts to feel like someone you have to reach. And that changes everything, because now prayer is no longer natural. It becomes something you have to do, something you should do, something you need to get right. And every time it doesn't work, it reinforces a painful belief. There must be something wrong with me. If that's where you are right now, still showing up, still trying, still praying, but feeling disconnected, I need you to hear this carefully. Because this might be the most important shift you've ever heard about prayer. Nothing is wrong with you. You're not broken, you're not failing, and you're not being ignored. What you're experiencing is not a lack of faith, it's not a lack of effort, and it's not God being distant. It's something else, something much more subtle, something almost invisible, but incredibly powerful, a misunderstanding, a way of seeing prayer that quietly creates distance even when you're trying to get closer. And once you see it, everything begins to change, not because you try harder, but because you finally understand what's actually happening. So before we go deeper, before we talk about how to fix it, let me show you something. Because once you see this, you won't be able to unsee it. Imagine two people. They both believe in God. They both genuinely want a real relationship with Him. They both set aside time to pray. From the outside, they look almost identical, but on the inside, their experiences could not be more different. The first person sits down to pray, and almost immediately, something kicks in. Pressure, not loud, not obvious, but it's there, a quiet sense that they need to do this right. So before they even speak, their mind starts moving. What should I say first? How long should I pray? Am I focused enough? They take a breath and begin, carefully choosing their words, trying to sound sincere, trying to feel something, trying to create connection. But underneath every sentence, there's effort. Constant effort, because in their mind, prayer is something they are doing to reach God. So every moment becomes a kind of performance, even if it's subtle, even if they don't realize it. They are trying to bridge a gap, trying to get somewhere, trying to make something happen. And because of that, they never fully relax. They never fully let go. They are always slightly tense, slightly on, watching themselves, evaluating themselves, wondering if it's working. And that internal tension creates distance, not because God is far away, but because they are stuck in effort. Now look at the second person. They sit down to pray, but instead of immediately speaking, they pause. Not because they don't know what to say, but because they're not in a rush. There's no pressure, no performance, no sense that they need to get somewhere. They're not trying to reach God. They're recognizing something. God is already here. And that realization changes everything. Because now, prayer doesn't start with effort. It starts with awareness. They take a slow breath, they settle, and instead of reaching outward, they simply become aware. I'm not alone. That's it. No big moment, no dramatic feeling. Just a quiet, steady awareness. And from that place, words may come, or they may not. Sometimes it's just, God, I'm here. Sometimes it's silence. But the silence doesn't feel empty. It feels full. Because they're not trying to create connection. They're experiencing it. There's no pressure to perform, no need to impress, no fear of doing it wrong. Just presence. Simple, natural, real. The difference between these two people is not discipline. It's not knowledge. It's not how long they pray. It's not how strong their faith is. The difference is this. One is trying to reach God. The other has realized they are already with Him. And this is the hidden block. The thing that quietly changes everything. You've been taught to approach God as if He is distant, as if He needs to be reached, as if connection depends on your effort. So every time you pray, you automatically step into effort mode, trying mode, performance mode. And this is where everything starts to break. Because effort blocks awareness. Let that sink in. Effort blocks awareness. Think about it like this. Have you ever tried to fall asleep by forcing yourself to fall asleep? You keep thinking, just sleep. Why am I not sleeping? I need to sleep right now. And the more you try, the more awake you become. Because the effort itself is what's keeping you from resting. Prayer works the same way. The more you try to make something happen, the more you disconnect from what's already there. Because real connection doesn't come from effort. It comes from awareness. Awareness of what? Not your words, not your emotions, not your ability to focus, but His presence. And this is the shift. Prayer is not about getting God's attention. It's about realizing you already have it. There comes a moment. It's quiet. Almost easy to miss. You're in the middle of praying, maybe repeating the same kind of words, trying to feel something, trying to connect, and suddenly you stop. Not because you ran out of things to say, but because something clicks. I've been trying to get somewhere that I already am. And in that moment, everything changes. The tension drops, the effort softens, the pressure disappears, and for the first time, you're not reaching outward anymore. You're becoming aware inward. And there it is. A presence. Subtle. Gentle. But real. Not something you created. Not something you earned. Something that was already there. God was never far away. You were just looking for Him in the wrong direction. And once you see this, you can't unsee it. Because now, the question is no longer, how do I reach God? The question becomes, how do I stay aware of what's already here? So what do you do with this? If prayer is not about reaching, if it's not about trying harder, if it's not about saying the right words, then how do you actually live this? It starts with a shift, not on the outside, but on the inside, small changes that completely transform how prayer feels. Switch 1. Stop performing. The next time you sit down to pray, don't start speaking right away. Just sit there for a few seconds. No words, no structure, no pressure to say anything meaningful. And notice what happens. Your mind might start racing. You might feel the urge to do something, to fill the silence, to start performing. But instead, stay. And gently remind yourself, I don't have to perform right now. I don't have to get this right. I'm already with God. Let that settle. And from that place, if words come, they come naturally, not forced. Not rehearsed, just real. Maybe it's something simple like, God, I don't even know what to say. And for the first time, that feels enough. Switch 2. Stop filling the silence. Most people are uncomfortable with silence, especially in prayer, because silence feels like nothing is happening. So we rush to fill it. More words, more sentences, more effort. But silence is only empty when you believe God is far away, when you believe you have to create connection. But when you realize He is already here, silence changes. It becomes full, alive, present. So the next time you feel that urge to speak, pause. Stay in the silence a little longer than you normally would. Let it breathe. Not as something you have to endure, but as something you can experience. And in that space, you may begin to sense something subtle. Not a voice, not a dramatic feeling, but a quiet presence. And that changes everything. Switch 3. Stop trying to control outcomes. This is where many people get stuck without realizing it. They pray because they want something to change, a situation, a problem, a feeling, and without noticing, prayer becomes a tool for control. If I say this right, maybe something will happen. If I believe enough, maybe this will change, and when it doesn't, it feels like failure. But prayer was never meant to be control. It was meant to be surrender, a releasing, a letting go of the need to force results. So the next time you feel yourself holding on to something, repeating it again and again, trying to make it happen, pause. And instead of pushing, release it completely. God, I trust you with this. And in that moment, something inside you softens. Because you're no longer carrying the weight. You're no longer responsible for making it work. You're simply present. Switch 4. Change where you look for most of your life. You've probably imagined God somewhere out there, far away, above, distant. So naturally, every prayer feels like reaching, like sending something outward, hoping it arrives. But what if that's the wrong direction? What if God is not out there, but right here, closer than your thoughts, closer than your breath, closer than the awareness you're using to listen right now? The next time you pray, instead of looking outward, gently turn inward, not into your thoughts, but into your awareness, and recognize I'm not alone. You don't have to force it. You don't have to feel anything dramatic. Just notice. And let that be enough. Switch 5. Stay. Don't strive. This is what everything comes down to. Effort says, do more, try harder, fix this. But connection doesn't come from effort. It comes from staying, remaining, being. Think of it like this. A phone connected to a charger doesn't try to receive power. It doesn't work harder to charge faster. It stays connected. And because it stays connected, everything flows naturally. That's what this is, not something you force, something you remain in, throughout your day, in small moments, in ordinary situations, when you feel overwhelmed, when your mind starts racing, when life feels heavy. You don't try to fix everything. You simply return. God is here, again and again and again. And over time, that awareness becomes natural. Effort fades. Connection remains. What begins to change when you start living this way? Prayer stops feeling like a task. It becomes a place you can return to, not something you have to get right, but something you can rest in. The pressure begins to disappear. That constant question, am I doing this right, starts to fade, because you're no longer performing, you're relating, you're no longer reaching, you're recognizing. And slowly, something shifts inside you. You begin to feel peace in moments that used to feel heavy. You begin to feel grounded, even when things around you are uncertain. You begin to sense that you're not alone. Not as an idea, but as a quiet reality, a deeper realization. At some point, this truth settles deeper than just understanding. You feel it. God was never waiting for you to get better at praying. He was never waiting for the perfect words. He was never measuring your effort. He was always there, present, near, available. And all this time, you were trying to reach him when he never left. Final emotional close. So hear this clearly. You were never being ignored. You were never doing it wrong. You were just looking for God in a place he never left. And right now, you don't need to try harder. You don't need better words. You don't need more effort. Just pause, even for a moment, and gently whisper, God, I'm here. And realize he always has been too.